Hello, my name is Adeline Roseby, and today we're going to be talking about building adaptive capacities for disaster recovery and preparedness in diverse communities. Natural disasters such as floods, bushfires, and cyclones have far-reaching impacts on individuals and communities as well as ecosystems. These events cause significant loss of life, destruction of property, and a disruption to overall livelihood that ends up leaving long-lasting psychological and social effects on affected populations. The increasing frequency and intensity of these disasters due to climate change make it more urgent than ever to focus on building resilience and adaptive capacities both at individual and community levels. Resilience refers to the ability to absorb the shocks and stresses of a disaster and bounce back, while adaptive capacity is the ability to learn from past experiences and adjust to future risks. When communities are resilient, they're not only able to recover from immediate impacts of disasters, but also develop strategies to reduce future vulnerabilities. This involves preparedness, the ability to respond, recovery, and adaptive capacity in itself. Building individual resilience focuses on empowering people with psychological tools, education, and resources that they need to cope with trauma and disruption. Studies have shown that individuals with strong social networks, access to mental health support, and a sense of community fare better in disaster recovery and invest in infrastructure and engagement with community members in recovery processes. Understanding adaptive capacity. Adaptive capacity refers to the ability of individuals and communities to effectively cope with, recover from, and adapt to disasters. It represents a society's resilience and its potentials to adjust to changes or disruptions caused by natural hazards. Strengthening adaptive capacity is critical for minimizing the long-term impacts of disasters and reducing vulnerability. Key components would include social capital, which is one of the most critical factors in adaptive capacity as it involves relationships, trust, and networks that enable community members to collaborate and share resources during a crisis. Aldrich highlights that social capital is vital during disaster recovery as it enables individuals to access informal support systems, share information, and develop coping strategies collectively. Institutional support, which includes the presence of government agencies, NGOs, and disaster relief organizations that offer critical resources and services during a disaster. Effective institutions are essential for enhancing adaptive capacity as they provide education, financial aid, emergency services, and healthcare. Mental health and well-being. Through mental health and psychological resilience, they are both crucial components of adaptive capacity, especially in the aftermath of disasters that can cause significant trauma and stress. Psychological support systems, including mental health services and community-based programs that foster emotional well-being, play a vital role in disaster recovery. Promoting psychological resilience through community support, counseling services, and social cohesion help people regain stability and adapt to a new post-disaster reality. Community-based approaches for recovery and building resilience. Community-based approaches for recovery and building resilience emphasize the importance of local engagement and ownership to foster resilience and solidarity during post-disaster recovery efforts. Engaging the community through participatory methods and education strengthens the adaptive capacity, empowering individuals and the broader community to then navigate future challenges more effectively. Participatory planning, by involving community members in decision-making processes surrounding disaster recovery, helps enhance ownership of the rebuilding efforts, fostering a sense of empowerment and solidarity. When individuals have a direct stake in the rebuilding process, they're more likely to feel responsible for and invested in the long-term outcomes. An example of this would be after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Several communities in Thailand successfully rebuilt their villages through participatory planning, ensuring that new infrastructure was more resilient to future disasters. Public awareness campaigns. By educating community members about the potential hazard steps for personal preparedness and available resources, local governments can then foster a culture of awareness and readiness. Public awareness campaigns may include distributing educational materials, hosting workshops, and using local media to disseminate information on disaster preparedness. An example of this will be the Be Ready campaign in New Zealand, that raised public awareness on earthquake preparedness, involving individuals and families to develop their own emergency kits and evacuation plans. Capacity building programs are essential for enhancing a community's ability to respond to and recover from disasters. These programs train individuals in disaster preparedness, first aid, emergency response, and even mental health first aid to support those affected by trauma. An example of this will be the community-based disaster preparedness training in Bangladesh that focus on cyclones and flooding, significantly reducing the mortality rates by educating locals on the evacuation procedures and emergency health care. Cultural considerations. Culturally informed approaches by incorporating culturally relevant practices and perspectives is crucial for effective disaster recovery, especially in diverse and multi-ethnic communities. For instance, in Japan, local religious traditions such as the Shinto and Buddhists play a significant role in recovery after natural disasters, particularly in the context of mourning and psychological healing. Another would be in the Pacific Island nations, community-based disaster risk reduction strategies are often built on cultural practices that emphasize communal decision-making, resource sharing, and environmental conservation, which helps mitigate the impact of storms, cyclones, and tsunamis. Key principles for integrating cultural approaches would include community engagement by working with local leaders and cultural representatives to then understand and incorporate cultural practices into disaster response strategies. Culture sensitivity training by training for disaster responders on cultural competence and ensuring that they understand and respect the diversity within their own community. And tailor communication strategies by adapting public awareness campaigns, preparedness information, and post-disaster support services to reflect the cultural values and communication styles of that community. Mental health and well-being support. By providing psychological first aid is a critical intervention that can be implemented immediately following a disaster. By training community members in PFA, individuals can offer emotional and practical support to those in distress. PFA was widely used following the 2010 Haiti earthquake, helping survivors cope with the immense psychological toll of the disaster. Support services in providing accessible mental health resources is essential for long-term recovery. This includes offering trauma-informed care, crisis counseling, and long-term mental health services to ensure that individuals can process the trauma in a safe and supportive environment. After Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans implemented mobile mental health units to reach displaced populations, ensuring that they had access to counseling and therapy services. Resilience through art and expression. Art-based interventions such as storytelling, painting, and music therapy provide an alternative means of processing trauma, especially for individuals who may find it difficult to express emotions verbally. Following the 2017 Grenfell Tower fire in London, art-based therapy was introduced for survivors, particularly children, to help them process their grief and trauma through nonverbal expression. Building long-term adaptive capacity. Education and skill development through long-term adaptive capacity hinges on equipping individuals and communities with the knowledge and skills necessary to face future disasters. By offering workshops on survival skills, disaster preparedness, and climate change adaptation, communities can better anticipate, respond to, and recover from crisis. Promoting social cohesion, a key factor in building adaptive capacities, promoting social cohesion through a community building initiative. Shared recovery projects, support groups, and volunteer efforts not only help with this physical rebuilding, but also strengthening social bonds. An example of this would be following the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand. Community-driven projects such as the Gap Villa, a collaborative urban regeneration initiative, helped rebuild the city while promoting social cohesion. Key concepts would include resilience as learning, where adaptive capacity can be seen as a learning process where communities bounce forward by taking the lessons from previous disasters and applying them to future preparedness. And cultural sensitivity in collaboration, where successful institutional collaborations also require cultural sensitivity, engaging with local communities in a way that respects their values and practices fostering trust and ensures more effective adaptive strategies. For a case study, one to be looked at would be the cyclone recovery that was done after Cyclone Yasi in Australia. Cyclone Yasi struck the coast of Queensland Australia in February 2011, causing significant damage to communities, particularly those with high proportions of Indigenous populations. Adaptive strategies that were implemented were community engagement and leadership, where Indigenous leaders were empowered to take a central role in recovery efforts, building infrastructure and resilience, where recovery initiatives focus on rebuilding homes and community infrastructure that could withstand future cyclones, and education and training programs, where the initiative also included workshops to educate community members about disaster preparedness and responding. 4 recommendations for future preparedness: strengthening community bonds, where fostering a culture of preparedness is essential for enhancing community resilience in the face of disasters. This can be achieved through community-led initiatives that can encourage participation and ownership. Building local infrastructure, where investing in resilient infrastructure is critical for reducing vulnerability to disasters. This includes developing flood-resistant housing, robust drainage systems, and reliable early warning systems. And inclusivity in planning, where inclusivity is a vital component of effective disaster preparedness, ensuring that all cultural and minority groups are represented in disaster preparedness plans, helping in creating solutions that are sensitive to the needs and values of diverse populations. In summary, the impact of natural disasters on communities necessitates a comprehensive approach to building resilience and adaptive capacity at both individual and community levels. By strengthening community bonds through participatory initiatives, investing in resilient infrastructure, and ensuring inclusivity in disaster preparedness planning, we can significantly enhance our collective ability to cope with and recover from future disasters. Thank you so much for listening.